What's the good word, y'all? DKB here for the night. Let me get this to chill in the background. What's going on, y'all? We're going to be kicking it tonight for our knock or lock the mock. Ronald, what's the good word, my man? We'll just be kind of big chilling. I doubt this will go very long. Maybe an hour on the long end, because I still want to also try to get this video finished editing and put in for tomorrow. But I'm hyped, y'all. We got a little under 3 weeks before we get this draft kicked off. I really hope this Aaron Rodgers news drops as well at some point before then, because it'd be nice to run through one final mock draft and kind of get a decent feel for what we got going on. All right. So, as mentioned, I did want to check out some mock drafts, kind of see, get a feel for kind of what's been going on. So far, I've seen some crazy picks lately. Not even necessarily in just the first round, but like somebody mocked. We're getting mocked wide receivers again pretty early on. So I've seen Jackson Smith once again creeping up. I've seen somebody mention a tight end again. So it seems like the Dalton Kincaid rumors are still kind of floating around in there. I did see a report that said the Jets are still looking to kind of get maybe a little bit more athleticism and explosiveness in the tight end room. Unless you get blown away by a guy and he really comes in and just destroys the preseason, I can't see us fitting a rookie into the roster. It's tough to think Jeremy Ruckert even sees the field right now. But let me pull up a couple of these mock drafts. And I haven't seen any of these, by the way. I just kind of wanted to ease our way into this. So this will be fresh for everybody. Okay. I think this is what I want. All right, cool. Looks like it's decent on the screen. All right, so we have one by CBS Sports here. Let's see what they're talking about. All right, so we got a 7th-round NFL mock draft by them. Looks like we find a way to address offense and defense here on the on the offensive defensive line front. Ronald, I knew it. They're not going to gamble with Ruckert. Ronald, do you mean in terms of like giving Ruckert a chance, or do you think we should also try to look to scoop up a tight end again? All right, so let's see. We have all of this. We'll skip past all of that. Okay, so number 13, somehow they have Peter Skoronski falling to us. I'll keep it 100 with you guys. Even, I'm trying to think. I want to say the first mock draft I dropped was maybe a little over a month ago. And even then, when I was seeing mock drafts, Peter Skoronski was generally the first tackle taken off the board every single time. So I don't know how he falls to 13 here. Paris Johnson's probably the best bet to go ahead of him, but I mean, still. So Peter Skoronski falls to us. Now, we just covered a situation in like an NFL mock trade that I dropped earlier today. Yeah, I think it was this morning. Where the Falcons and the Jets traded up, and we did that in order to get our pick of the tackles, and we got Peter Skoronski. So obviously, if he's here at 13, I would love to scoop him up. And they mentioned it here too. Okay, so this is interesting. So they mentioned the same thing, and this is something that you guys will keep hearing, and this will probably come up repeatedly on like the draft coverages, but they mentioned that Quentin Nelson, I've heard Zach Martin as the more common comparison, but they keep having this very, very highly productive comparisons between these two guys and Peter Skoronski. So I think offensive line is a huge pressing need. Do I think that we need to address it at 13? Unless something like this happens for us, no. I'm still a huge fan of trading back in the draft. I actually don't think there's a single player. Maybe if a guy like Tyree Wilson is on the board or something like that, a team for us, then I say like, yeah, run to the podium with it. But in most cases, I'm probably going to say let's try to trade back. And, you know, I would say it's more likely that there's going to be guys that we like and don't love there. But I love this pick. Peter Skoronski at number 13, I'm in favor of. So, okay, where do they have us drafting Kalijah Kancey if yeah, that's the title of their can't trust some of these mock drafts out here. Excuse me for as well for anybody that joins the chat later or anything like that. I'll be kind of flipping back and forth. Ronald, I don't think Ruckert is the answer. What happened to the tight ends we had last year? Yeah, but a lot of that was having a season from like Garrett Wilson, I think changes a lot about how we view the offense. Overall, though, even with the terrible year, the extremely bad quarterback play has been one of the best tight end, you know, producing seasons that we've had since like Dustin Keller was at the helm. So I think with Aaron Rodgers coming in, you automatically assume everybody's ceiling, everybody's floor, you know, elevates, you know, to the, you know, 10th power. You know, we have to kind of get crazy with the imagination there. I mean, there's a lot of bad accuracy, a lot of bad decisions, way more scenarios where you've seen that our guys ended up having to complete a catch in traffic as opposed to having an easy ball. And there's been multiple, you know, you don't even need an all 22. You can run through highlight reels and see like, all right, there's a lot of these catches where these guys should have had way more yards ahead of them. And, you know, bad ball placement ended up screwing them. So I don't know. In terms of what Jeremy Ruckert was able to do, he didn't really get a chance to show much of anything last year, right? But that final game of the season where he actually got game time on the field, I think you've seen the flashes of him being a very strong blocker right off the bat. And then I want to say he caught a touchdown that game. So, I mean, nothing crazy. But, I mean, you have the basis of seeing what can allow him to get on the field, right? Instead of having CJ have to go out there and block as often, you can throw Jeremy Ruckert out there and, you know, kind of make him a final option on a play or kind of like a fail-safe check down option. You can, you know, spread out Tyler Conklin, keep CJ in line. There's a lot more stuff that you can do. Not that people are rolling out a whole lot of 3 tight end packages, but I would say considering nobody really expected Ruckert to get a whole lot of time either way, I'm kind of happy with the small glimpse that we've seen. Wild Wave, what's the good word, my man? All right, so in round 2, we end up picking up linebacker Trenton Simpson. Now, last year's draft kind of threw out a lot of the, I guess, condition thinking I had about how the NFL draft is going to plan out, right? The thinking was we wouldn't draft Sauce Gardner. Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh have never drafted a cornerback, within, I want to say it was the first 3 rounds, something like that. They just don't really have a history of it. Wild Wave. Okay, so round 1, this is CBS Sports mock draft. Somehow Peter Skoronski falls to us, right? So obviously I love the pick. This is a guy that we covered in the mock trade scenario I dropped earlier today. I think, moving up to 8 makes sense. If this is the guy that we want to target, he has pretty high comparisons. They talk a little bit here about, his pass blocking efficiency. The guy's just a beast in terms of being able to go out there and protect the quarterback. So I love the pick. Going back to this Trenton Simpson pick, I'm going to have to take Robert Saleh at face value, right? I think I'll throw out a lot of the educated guesses, I want to say, about what I think they'll do. Trenton Simpson here could make a whole lot of sense, right? It's not the first round. Robert Saleh has mentioned before, in terms of safety, in terms of linebackers, he'll never go out there and pick a linebacker in the first round unless they're just some kind of unicorn, right? And I will probably say he's assuming a unicorn in terms of, elite athletic traits all around the board, probably elite size going along with that, and then elite production, right? I'm assuming those are going to be the 3 check boxes that he's looking for, so that there's not a whole lot of projection, right? This is a guy that you pretty much insert in and you expect him to dominate right away. Trenton Simpson is a guy with a whole lot of tools. He has, extremely versatile. I think he's played essentially the same way that you could say that like Chuck Clark has played. He's played on the D line. He's played effectively every linebacker position. He's played slot cornerback. He's played, safety. I think he even lined up at D safety a handful of times. So this is a guy that can go out there and be like a crazy chess piece for somebody. Robert Saleh, Jeff Ulbrich, I don't know if they would necessarily be the place that he would benefit from the most. Traditionally, we just don't do a whole ton of crazy things with our linebackers. But if you want to have that versatility, this will be a guy that can get it done for you. I mean, if nothing else, he does bring the athletic traits. I think this will probably be a bit high for what we're looking at. You also have to kind of think about future state of the roster. Where's the holes going to be? I would say I would more so look at a guy like I'm trying to think what his name was again. Something Jack. He's an inside linebacker. I think he's probably projected 2nd to 3rd round, but let me think real quick, or let me look it up anyways. Where are you? Jack Campbell. There we go. Jack Campbell would probably be more so a guy that if you want to talk about the traits and, the versatility, different things like that he's going to bring, he's a guy I see us maybe taking a shot on in the 2nd round, not necessarily a guy like Trenton Simpson. So he scares me a bit. Comparison-wise, he reminds me of the guy that went to the Cardinals a while back. Isaiah Simmons. There we go. So I don't know. I mean, ultimately, I think you see the development from the linebackers that we have. So I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world. But still, in terms of thinking about picking a guy in the 2nd round, I think this is definitely more so of a project than a guy that you can throw out there and maybe see him have a ton of success right out the gate. Wild Wave, you don't see it with Trent. Ronald. Ronald, who would you take at 13 if you had your choice? All right, let's keep running through this. So with our second, okay, so they're not including anything for the Aaron Rodgers trade here. So cool. So for the second round pick we have, they have they somehow have Kalijah Kancey falling all the way down here. Maybe he does, but I think overall for, the people that think they're going to get like a Grady Jarrett type guy, I don't see him hitting the second round, especially not, we're talking pick 43. So the early stages of the middle of second round. But if this was to actually be the case and this happened in real life, I think this is a steal. I just seen something that was dropped on like not X Factor, but heavy.com. So what's dude's name? Paul Eston. I forget what they call him, Jet Boy or something like that. But yeah, they were talking about that essentially being like a nightmare scenario, right? What do you do when you have Quinnen Williams and Kalijah Kancey on the inside of your line, decimating people on passing down? So I love the pick. Again, probably not realistic in my mind, but if this is ultimately how the board falls, I'm all for it. Wow, wait. All right, so you don't see Peter Skoronski being a good pick either, or at least not at that spot, unless you want to kick AVT to right tackle. Yeah, I don't know. So if we were to pick Peter Skoronski, I think you look at him as your future left guard because that's where his all-pro potential is. If you don't put him at guard immediately and let him compete with Laken Tomlinson, then yeah, I think the only other obvious place that you can, find starting time for him would be to let him fight with Max Mitchell and see if he can take over the right tackle position, at least in the meantime, till next year. Or the year after, because again, Laken Tomlinson got his contract reworked, so we're looking at him for 2 years instead of necessarily just being able to get him off the books after next year. Huawei, okay. So a lot of the same things we were just mentioning. I don't mind. Again, the ceiling that we're looking at and the comparisons that keep getting thrown out there are Zach Martin and Quentin Nelson. I would sign up for that every single day, right? I mean, it's not a sexy pick, as they say, but worst case scenario, you're talking about between him, AVT, and then whoever we can get to man the center, you're talking about one of the best interior lines in the NFL. So in terms of being able to, force pressure to come on the outside as opposed to the interior, it doesn't get much better than that, especially if you think about us having to reset at the quarterback position once again. I'd rather have somewhat of a questionable tackle situation than a guard center concern. And who knows, we may be looking at Zach Wilson again in a year or two, hopefully much improved. If not, then we're talking about, potentially a rookie once again. And probably not a guy like Caleb Williams, at least not unless things went terribly wrong with Aaron Rodgers. So, all right. So first 3 picks, Peter Skoronski, Trenton Simpson, Kalijah Kancey. We don't have a third rounder. So in the 4th, this is a guy that I really love a lot. If we don't take out a guy sooner, Christopher Smith out of Georgia. The second mock draft I did, I want to say, is when, I think after like the 3rd round, I had no clue anyways. A lot of the guys in this safety class, I just knew we needed to get somebody. I want to say Battle's like the only guy that really stood out from like a name perspective. Christopher Smith is one of them dudes. So especially when you consider the program, the championship pedigree and everything that they've been building recently, Christopher Smith is a guy that shall offer a lot in terms of being able to force turnovers. And that's something that I think we should be extremely excited about. It's been a missing piece for our defense for quite a few years. Let me think. The last guy that really caused a lot of turnovers for us was probably Jamal Adams. Was kind of he forced fumbles a lot. Marcus May didn't really have a huge impact in that area. That's tough. Yeah, actually, who was the last guy to really? Um, That's sad. It may have been a guy like Dexter McDougal or something who like lucked himself into a handful of interceptions. I don't think we've had anybody in recent memory that really has been able to go out there and force the issue. The 13th pick, in my opinion, should be used on a plug-and-play starter. So Paris Johnson or a raw prospect like Broderick Jones who could sit and then take over. If you consider Paris Johnson plug and play, that makes sense. If you're talking about a guy that has a lot of tools, though, and you want to see sit for a year and then he just, falls into that starting role the next year, that essentially sounds to me like the same thing we're talking about with Peter Skoronski. Except he may be able to find starting time. It'll be as a right tackle, and then in 2 years, or sooner, if they hold a true competition, he takes over Laken Tomlinson's role, and he becomes an all-pro, ideally, with Elijah Vera Tucker. Ronald, you have Paris Johnson as well. I mean, fair enough. Again, I'm a guy that likes the second tier a lot more, so I would definitely love to go out there and get a guy like Darnell Wright. Or, take another shot at a guy like a DeJuan Jones, potentially. But, yeah, I don't know. At this point, I got you, Walt. At this point, I just really hope that we see more so of a bounce-back season from Laken Tomlinson, and maybe we get a chance to take a shot on a guy in, like, the mid-rounds. I'd really... Considering what we spent to bring him in and what the expectations were, I would hate to have to invest, again, who's going to be sad about having an all-pro guard, but I'd hate to have to take a shot again, especially so early in the draft at it. Yeah, Jones to me is just more so of a kind of a Madden experiment in my head, I guess. The idea of having Mekhi Becton and DeJuan Jones just bullying people is appealing to me. Plus, I think it's probably one of the best. It's kind of one of the best comparisons from like a size perspective you get. And we're seeing Mekhi Becton really turn things around. So you're talking about if you are concerned about like DeJuan Jones's weight, assuming he doesn't have like coachability or like personality concerns, he should be able to pick right up with Mekhi Becton, slim down to whatever looks like the best weight size for him, and be able to kind of learn his lessons that Mekhi Becton took early. I heard the Buffalo Bills are looking to trade it. Yeah, I heard the same thing, but I think they're all over the board. Even where they pick at, I think there could be some really good options. So I think the top 3 names I've been seeing is obviously, depending on where they trade up, take your pick of one of the offensive line guys. In terms of other positions, the most other 2 mock names that I've seen, Jackson Smith. That's a trade-up situation. If they stayed, I've heard a guy like Zay Flowers. But then the one that I would hate to see, Bijan Robinson. Ronald, we're going to take Broderick, I think. I wouldn't hate that. In my mind, we've invested a lot of resources in the offense, right? So if we're going to pick offensive guys, and technically this applies to the defense as well, there's just a few more obvious holes. I want us to pick guys that have like long-term all-pro, I'm talking like year in and year out all-pro potential. You look at them and say, this guy could be a Hall of Famer, right? They're not going to have to come in and start away at pretty much most positions on the offense. So, bring them in, let them sit for a year. Maybe they see some snaps, cool. But then in year 2, year 3, that's when you see them take off, and they've had a chance to sit there for a whole year for the most part and really work on the mechanics of things. That is the sweet spot of this draft. So I would definitely love to see a Broderick Jones in that case. Again, I'm still preferential to Darnell Wright and DeJuan Jones as well. But yeah, for sure. Broderick Jones, again, also having that championship pedigree, I think he'll bring in kind of that alpha personality into the locker room. We need more guys that kind of have that Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson mentality. Even Jamal Adams, although things sour with him, you need those guys when you talk about changing, the losing mentality. That would be justice if Becton could replicate half of his rookie year. 100%. 100%. Gino, my boy. What's good, boss? Hey, by the way, my phone is still jacking up, but are we good for tomorrow? I was going to hit you guys on Instagram before I called it a night, but where were we? Okay, so round 4, we had Christopher Smith. Again, this is a pick I really love. I think this is the common range that I've seen him. We always pick him up in the 4th round in most of the mocks that I've seen. I just love his ability to go out there and be able to force turnovers. So he's a guy that I would really respect, being able to see out there, compete with go out there and compete with Tony Adams, who I think is going to be a big piece of improvement in the safety room. I really liked what he did at the end of last year. Text the group chat. Okay, cool. I'm good to go on my end for sure. So I'll finish getting everything set up for today or tomorrow then. Your texts will probably come through at some point. I think I'm starting to get them now. They're just coming through super late. And my phone replacement hasn't come in yet. So I don't know. I'll just have to live with it for now. Let's see. Round 5, we pick up center John Gaines. I'm not familiar with this dude whatsoever. There's a couple late round guys I think that I would really like if we can't get a guy like my personal favorite right now is going to continue to be Joe Tippmann. Again, he's kind of one of those elite measurable, elite tool set or elite tools kind of guys that just maybe needs to hone their craft. Joe Tippmann's my guy. If not, there's a few guys that are like later. I know people love the Luke Weipler story is kind of like another Jeremy Ruckert situation. There's a guy I've been checking out. There's a guy I've been checking out more recently, Juice Scruggs. I like him as an option. He's not the best fit from like a straight up scheme perspective. But he did run a zone-based offense. It's just kind of more like gap control as opposed to, wide zone-based. But I'm trying to remember, where is he out of? Scruggs is out of Penn State. There we go. So he's a guy I probably, keep an eye on later on if we miss out. He is transforming himself physically, so I think he's coming back with a vengeance. Yeah, man, I think people should not question the talent and what he's going to produce if he does stay on the field. The question is, can we get him to stay on the field? But I think he's finally doing all of the right things to make that happen. So I'm excited for him. I'm more excited than I was last year. and we haven't even seen anything close to what he's doing this time around. So dope. So yeah, as far as this John Gaines guy, I don't know. Let's see. So he's not a lock to be a day one starter, they say. He has guard center versatility. 6'4", 303 pounds. He's played tackle as well. So he might be one of the better athletes at his position. So they're saying he's in the Rashawn Slater, Zach Tom range of combine workouts. That's crazy. So he's a guy with you can essentially say elite measurables. I don't like that. When we talk about taking a center in this draft, unless we go out there and we really do lock down Ben Jones, and I'm talking like before the draft, if you're going to target a center in the draft, you have to get a guy that you feel like can be a starter for us. This guy, just based on what I'm hearing, does not sound like it. He sounds like a better version of Dan Feeney for us, which is not something that I think is worth the risk, right? I don't know if we get a wide receiver. We'll check one out here in a minute. I think we have a 6th-round pick still. But this is where I would probably take a look at maybe seeing if you can find yourself a weapon you could develop. Again, if we're going to go with somebody here and he's still available, I'm picking a guy like Juice Scruggs, who I think could be a starter. And not a guy that kind of sounds more like a project and, a depth piece. Granted, we're talking about the 5th round, so, how many starters are you realistically going to find? But I don't love the pick. Wild, you don't like a center at 5. Are you trying to get JMS in round 2, or like the back end of round 1? Or what's the latest you're looking to go center at? Yeah, we talked about the Simpson pick. I'm all on board for it. Let's see. I think we have one more. Yeah. Okay. So they do go wide receiver here. They pick up Jalen Moreno Cropper. Not a guy I'm familiar with, but okay. So he led the All Mountain West first team. 83 receptions, went over 1,000, 5 TDs. Kind of seems like a big play threat just from what I'm reading here. And he seems like he's been getting a pretty decent amount of buzz from people. 5'11", 172. Pro comparison is Harry Douglas. I mean, I'm not mad at it. I mean, realistically, we're talking the 6th round. So unless you want to go and the Jets really have the luxury of being able to go any which way they want, right? We have Irvin Charles as the UDFA we picked up last year that's been able to ride the bench and hopefully work on his game, but he's probably not going to crack the roster again this year. So you have that size component already when you want to talk about like practice squad guys. I like what was the other kid's name that caught the 2 game-winning touchdowns from Streveler? Damn, his name is escaping me. Calvin Jackson. I think that's what it was. I wouldn't mind finding a guy like, in that mold again, get you like a high-level Braxton Berrios type dude. Find somebody that can hopefully go out there and, man the slot role for whoever we, end up deeming going to replace Elijah Moore. Plus, the OBJ news came out today, so he's signing with the Ravens. So, we don't have him really as a backup option anymore to say that that's going to be our slot. Right now, it's looking like, who do we have? Garrett, Corey, Allen. Gary, Corey, Allen, Mecole, and then it's Mims, and I think like Irvin Charles on them. So out of those guys, Mecole Hardman will give you the speed element out of the slot. Corey Davis has the versatility there. I would probably say it's him with Allen Lazard going out to the boundary. But who knows? Wow. Okay. So you want a top center. I got you. I don't mind JMS either. But again, if we get Ben Jones, I think it's a wasted pick getting a guy like John Michael Schmitz. He's a guy that's going to be plug and play immediately. So I think he's probably tapped out physically as much as he's going to be. I'm sure there'll be some upgrades there from like a physical standpoint once he gets into the NFL, weight training program and all that kind of stuff. But physically, he's kind of peaked for the most part. So he's a guy that I really look to come in and like he'll get more technically refined and all that, but he can do that while he's playing. He's not a guy that really needs to sit. If we don't get Ben Jones, obviously I think if he's on the board there with our first, second round pick, he needs to be the guy. And I'll be perfectly happy with that. So, I guess as far as this first mock draft that we're checking out, there's some things personally I like. Peter Skoronski falling to us, I think is a good pickup. Trenton Simpson, I don't love, so I'd say we're 1-1. Kalijah Cansey is a win. Christopher Smith is a win. I don't love the center pickup. And again, the wide receiver is really kind of a wash for me here. I would probably say we're looking at, with Peter Skoronski and Kalijah Cansey, we're getting two of the top prospects at their positions. So I can't be mad at that. I would probably say, though, I'm still good on this particular mock. I would probably knock this one off. I think there's, again, I would love to kind of see the mock draft they actually went through and know who might have available. But yeah, I'm not a fan of some of the other picks that we've seen from them. In the second, we can grab Luke. Wow, Wave, you talking about Luke Weipler, the center? You want to grab him in the second round if that's what you're talking about? As far as thoughts on JSN, since we missed out on OBJ, I think we have a wide receiver room as it is right now that would still be considered one of the 10 best in the league. You have two very strong number twos in Alan Zard and Corey Davis. You already have a legit number one with Garrett Wilson. You have Mecole Hardman, who, if he gets utilized the right way, he can have a breakout season in his own right. If nothing else, he's definitely still a very strong receiver if you can get him to stay on the field. Definitely a big play threat. You have Denzel Mims, who's been able to sit and, kind of marinate. He's coming into a coaching staff that has a better idea of maximizing players' traits. So, if he can somehow find his way on the field, he could be a sneaky good addition. I think you're set as it is right now. OBJ was just to kind of help put us over the top. I wouldn't say it's a risk. I wouldn't take a shot at a guy early like that because he's not really going to see the field. You can't argue to me that there's going to be a rookie that we find in this draft class that's going to be able to come out and outproduce Corey Davis or Alan Lazard when healthy. So in terms of being a better fit, yeah, having a guy like Jackson Smith that can come in and put up elite results in the slot will be dope. But I think you can have a better impact on the roster if you go elsewhere. One of the other ways that I've seen somebody put it as well, which made me like completely take off taking a wide receiver in like the first 2 or 3 rounds, is Jackson Smith is generally considered one of the best wide receivers in this draft class. If you take a look and compare that to like last year where Garrett Wilson and Drake London and Jamison Williams and all them came out, he probably wouldn't crack the top 5. So, different drafts come with different strengths and all that kind of stuff. But I think that also speaks volumes to me. So, yeah, I think I'm good. Trading back. Yeah. I mean, I know we said this a lot um, about our wide receiver room being really good. Like, I'm trying to think who was on the roster then, but I don't know if Corey Davis was there then, but who do we have? Keelan Cole, Denzel Mims, Braxton Berrios. Yeah, I think we had Corey, Keelan, Braxton, Denzel. Either way, you get the point. We looked at that roster or that position group specifically, and we said, okay, we're deep. We're deep. We got guys that can come in off injury or guys that could just rotate in and out, and we're going to be bomb. And it didn't play out that way. Again, bad quarterback play and a bunch of other issues. But I think legitimately, just from a pure production standpoint, if you look at that wide receiver group, once you get down to even McCole Hardman, when you take a look at him as being like the fourth best wide receiver potentially in that room, he's a dope wide receiver 4. So you have to go all the way down to number 5 and you start taking a look at a guy like Denzel Mims to say like, all right, this is probably where the fall off is. But our top 4 guys is a very strong rotation. So I love it. Yeah, as mentioned, I'm good on this particular mock. Let's see what else we have going on. Is it not okay, I think it was lagging on me. We have one from Clutch Points. All right, let's see what they're talking about. Okay, so looks like you guys already get your first wish for the guys that wanted Paris Johnson. So first round, number 13, we stay put. We pick up Paris Johnson, who it's weird. I don't know if people have cooled off on this or not, but I've seen a lot of people debating him versus Peter Skoronski as being the best pass blocking offensive lineman. I still think Peter Skoronski has it, but there's a legitimate debate at least about what a guy like Paris Johnson would bring. Plus, he's more so of a pure tackle, right? The better measurements and all that kind of stuff that's going to come with it. So, I mean, I will never be upset about that. So I think this one's pretty clear cut. What? This one's pretty clear cut and dry. Paris Johnson at 13 is a pick that we all would still love. In the second round, we have linebacker once again. This time they're going Drew Sanders out of Arkansas. So they say, obviously, we want to look at defensive tackle here. Kalijah Kancey and Mazi Smith are off the board already. We don't want to overreach, and so we end up settling on Sanders. Sanders fits the profile, at least. Again, we're talking a 4-3 defense as well, though. So I think one of the things that people that are making these mock drafts have to consider – my bad. I'm screwing with the puppy over here. I think one of the things that a lot of people have to consider when they're doing these mock drafts is that our 4-3 front, our linebackers, generally speaking, aren't going to be forced to have to rush the passer. We've seen how that played out earlier in the year before Quinnen Williams, went off on the coaching staff, and we finally decided, like, all right, what's, worst case scenario, this is what our scheme is meant for. If it doesn't work out, we'll just go back to, operating more out of a blitz capacity. But the formula has worked. We've seen it last year. The Eagles were the shining example, 4 guys on the defensive front with over 10 tackles. So I think we continue to roll with that. So if you're going to get a linebacker, I say we would need to look at somebody again, like Jack Campbell. I get CJ keeps getting his contracts restructured and all that kind of stuff, so he'll probably be a while for a minute. But you want a guy that has the range and not the pass rushing, but you want a guy that has the ability to drop into those passing lanes and really force the turnovers and then bring the hitting ability and all those other things, as opposed to a guy that's more so focused around being able to get after the passer, because that's not what we're asked them to do 9 times out of 10. So Ronald, I got you. Yeah. OBJ was a luxury. I mean, if he came on the roster, I wasn't going to hate the move, purely from a talent standpoint. But anything outside of that, again, it was an extreme luxury, and ultimately maybe some drama would have came out of it anyways. So I look at it as kind of like good riddance either way. So yeah, Drew Sanders, Arkansas. I'm not feeling it. I think there would have been better scheme fit guys that we could have got our hands on. It doesn't say if Jack Campbell or somebody like that was off the board, but yeah, if we're gonna go linebacker in a second, I want a guy that's going to be known more so for being able to shut down the pass, as much as a linebacker can do, anyways. In the 4th round, so it looks like they only gave us 1 pick. And it's the 43rd, which means that we gave up the one before this. It looks like they're factoring in a potential Aaron Rodgers trade. And then, of course, with the Elijah Moore trade, we don't have a 3rd. We finally go defensive tackle in the 4th. We get Byron Young out of Bama. He was able to contribute as a true freshman, which is always good. He kind of fits that slightly undersized mold. Flashed as a pass rusher. From what I remember from Byron Young, and I still haven't paid a ton of attention to the defensive tackles because I really think we hit one in the first 2 rounds, or we trade up into the 3rd, either way. But from what I remember with Byron Young, he's not a guy that's really a strong one-gap attacker. So that would be my only real question mark with him. Otherwise, he would probably be like our version of Nathan Shepard ultimately. But, better. A better Nathan Shepard. So I wouldn't knock it. But he's not a guy that's going to come in and he's not a guy that's going to come in and be an impactful piece for us. And again, I know we're talking the 4th round. Which is why I don't think, this would be, if we're picking a guy like Byron Young in the 4th round, I think we're just doubling down on the position, and we've already gotten a guy before. Tell me about it. He's a gamble. I tuned out of the chat for a minute. So, Ronald, fill me in. Are we talking about the Byron Young guy being a gamble, or were we still talking about OBJ? Is it me or a team's not letting these free agents have a visit with the Jets the day before the meeting? Facts. Yeah. So, okay. From what I heard, I was probably going to do a video about it, and then I was like, I'm kind of over it. So from what I heard is obviously the Ravens offered OBJ a contract days ago. I think he was holding out for hopes that the Aaron Rodgers news will break. But then there were some rumors today that the contract obviously was 1 year, $18 million. It's really like a $15 million deal with $3 million in incentives he can get. But I heard that he called Joe Douglas and them yesterday and told them, like, do you want to match? They said nah, and then he ended up announcing he's going to the Ravens. So we had our shot. It makes me love Joe Douglas more because we're not going to overpay for anybody. And for the people that were fans of OBJ, they're still living off his one-handed catches on the boundary of the end zone. So $15 million is a lot, though. $15 million is a lot, and I'm pretty sure most, if not all of that, is probably guaranteed. I'm willing to bet. I was willing to go as much as I want to say I said like 6 to 8 million, and then maybe you offer some incentives like they did to get it up to 12. But yeah, there's no way I was trying to pay that much for a guy like OBJ. It's damaged goods. You don't buy a guy like that based off what he did, at least not at that price tag. What else? 5th round, we pick up Jason Taylor the second. All right, so he's a guy, senior season. Okay, quite a few tackles and interceptions in the one season. 6 foot, 204. I do like that from the standpoint that we didn't really have a lot of 200 plus pound guys patrolling the back end. It's not a necessity, but having that little bit of extra beef on the back really kind of helps, especially when you consider seeing like Jordan Whitehead. Obviously, he was going for big hits, but kind of sliding off a lot of these tackles that should have been a done deal. This is a pick. Okay, so essentially, this is a guy that you would look at as kind of a strong backup option in the future. Nothing wrong with that. Again, from what I understand here, he's going to be more in the strong safety mode, so we're not really addressing a huge position of need for us. Chuck Clark, Jordan Whitehead, they'll be out of the building next year, so we still definitely need a piece. I don't know. I probably still would think it's easier to find yourself a strong safety than it is a free safety. Even if you want to consider just having an entire safety room, talking both positions, and saying we'll just try to get ourselves a lot of combo safety guys that can do both. Hey. If Mike McCagnon was the GM, we would have gave up our first, second, third. We probably would have gave up most of this draft class to bring in Aaron Rodgers. Mike McCagnon was not a very. He reminds me of a guy that like looks at chess, thinks it's fun, and then just gets the brakes beat off him left and right. Like one of those dudes that gets finished in like the first 4 moves every time because he has no knowledge of like history, how things work, getting played, none of that. I'm pretty sure the other 31 GMs looked at him like a mark. It was bad. It was bad for us with him. Any good big runnings I see us taking one? There was, man, hold on. I got to remember his name. I really didn't see us drafting one, but there was one guy I really, really liked that reminded me of kind of Brian Robinson from last year. I got to find the name. Hold on. Damn it. I wish I could remember some of these names off the top of my head. Don't mind me. We'll jump back into it in a minute. But I really want to try to remember what this name is. And I think he's a guy that should be available in like the 4th and 5th round range, potentially. So you're not talking about a guy that, we'll have to invest anything super crazy in. His name was Sean Tucker. There we go. Sean Tucker's the guy. He's 5'9", 207, but the man's like a rock. He has some pretty like sneaky speed about him. Really good contact balance. He's a guy that potentially could kind of like running back a run. Wow, what the hell? He could be an RB1 in some schemes, depending on how people like look and see him. But Yeah, he's a guy that I would be really excited to see us pick up if he somehow lasted. Yeah, I'm not a fan of rushing him back either. I know everybody keeps saying, and like Robert Saleh mentioned, how good he looks now. Um, if he starts week one, cool. I mean, at least that's close to a year. Um, but I don't want us to immediately go out there in game one and be like, all right, here's 25 rushing attempts. Which is why it scares me that a lot of people do think we should just stick with Michael Carter and Bam Knight in the running back room as well. And then, of course, we re-signed Ty Johnson. I think we need somebody else just to try to maximize the competition there as well. But yeah, you don't really have another guy. And, last season, evidence of this, we don't have another guy last year that you look at and you say, all right, this is somebody that at least has running back one potential. Even Bam Knight, who started out really, really good, ended up ultimately kind of fading, dealing with a couple nagging injuries and stuff. And like it, Breece Hall compared to the rest of the room just definitely looks different. Final pick in this draft, Charlie Jones out of Purdue. I think this is a guy I might have picked. I think this was one of the guys that I was looking at picking in like the last mock draft I did. But 5'11", 175. No, the guy I picked was a big body. He was like 6'5". Actually, yeah, I think he was like a 6'5" dude out of UCLA. Very productive, 110. Damn, okay. Don't know who the kid is, but I can tell you just by reading this was a guy that I would be excited about. He has special teams value, very productive, especially considering like his touchdowns. Sounds like he has very strong hands. 22 contested catches is pretty solid. What conference is Purdue in? Are they Big Ten? Purdue is... Yo, my computer is lagging along crazy right now. It's not good. Yeah, Purdue's Big Ten. Okay. Decent enough conference. Carter needs someone to compliment him, similar to Thomas Jones to Leon Washington. Ooh. Yeah, that's a pretty good comparison. Overall, the running back room is one that always scares me either way, just because the injury rate there is always so high. And even if it's nothing crazy like an ACL tear, like even losing Breece Hall to something like, let's say, like a hamstring strain, where we've seen how that's hit guys like Corey Davis and stuff, like none of that is ever good. I've even considered, I didn't put it out, but just when I was playing around with some mock drafts, I think I took the same trade I took before with the Bills to drop back to, I think they picked like 26th or something like that. I've considered taking a guy like Bijan Robinson, and then you build yourself something like a Cleveland Browns room where now, even at full health, you can either go hot hand, and if Breece Hall is just killing him all the time, then cool, you still give him, his 20 to 25. You give Bijan Robinson his, 12 to 15 ideally. If not, then most of the carries go to Bijan. If not, you split them down the middle. But either way, you have two running backs that can put the team on their back at any given time. So I still love the idea of something like that too. Yeah, we didn't. I'm very positive that was the last mock draft I put out, or the one. The Bills gave me a first this year, obviously, a first next year, and I think we got a third and a fourth round pick off of them. So it wasn't super crazy. They moved up like 13 picks, but we got another first next year, and then we got those additional picks in like the day 2 range to help out. So I was okay with it. And then I think we ended up going DeJuan Jones there, which is why I ended up trading back originally. So I got DeJuan. I got some extra picks in the middle. And then we still got a chance to get 2 first rounders next year in case we do want to, throw a Hail Mary at something like a guy like Caleb Williams or something like that. You at least give yourself the chance to try to put together a trade package. Yeah. I feel you, Wild Wave, but ultimately it wasn't supposed to be a super realistic thing. Keeping in mind, like, obviously that would be ideal. In the mock draft realm, though, we're not going to care about the future, picks that we're getting. So for the value of what we got, we traded back later. We picked up a third and a fourth. I thought it was a good deal for us. Yeah, I got you, Wild Wave. It's been touch and go on how I want to do them. I definitely like doing them live just so I can kind of get some thoughts and opinions from people as well. There's definitely some really good stuff that came out the last time we did it, Christopher Smith and all that kind of stuff. But I think I like the way I've seen Jet Central do it as well, where he just kind of goes through what he had happen and then like breaks down the players. So I think I'll end up doing 2 more before the draft officially drops. I'll do one in like a live like we're doing now. And then I'll drop another one in kind of the same format like I've seen out of Ian. So division taxes. I like it. I don't think Brandon Bean is the type to really get ripped off either, though. If anybody should have been paying attention to Joe Douglas and what happens when he puts on his ski mask, it should definitely be the Patriots, the Dolphins, and the Bills, yo. As far as this mock draft goes, let me see. What do we have again? We picked up Paris Johnson. I think that's a W. I don't like Luke Weipler. I missed this. Never mind. I thought we did. I thought they were including the Aaron Rodgers trade. I missed this. I don't like Luke Weipler in the second. And I'm confused why I keep seeing him there because I could have swore he was projected to go in like the 4th to 5th round range. If we were going to go later, again, like Juice Scruggs is one of my guys. If we're talking about like later than a 3rd round, Luke Weipler will also be a guy I consider then, but I would still be very pissed to miss out on Joe Tippmann or JMS. Those are one of the 2 guys I feel like we absolutely need to try to get. Drew Sanders, I don't love. Byron Young was okay with me. I don't love the Jason pick. Charlie Jones was cool. I think this would be a terrible draft for us as well. Not to say Drew Sanders and Luke Weipler won't go out there and perform, but I think the value is terrible. The scheme fit is terrible when you talk about like Drew Sanders. And then when you get into the later rounds, like, yeah, the safety that they picked, Byron Young's okay. In the 4th round, cool. We would have missed out on a ton of options by now. That probably would have been better. But when I look at this draft, I say, okay, we improved at tackle. We probably still got to turn Luke Weipler, but I think the value is terrible. Drew Sanders, it's not going to be an obvious path to playing time for him. Our defensive tackle was cool. Again, probably would be like a long range better version of Nathan Shepard for us. Jason Taylor essentially is probably going to replace like an Ashton Davis on the roster. And then Charlie Jones, I kind of like just from what I read here, but you're still talking about a huge need at defensive tackle, in my opinion, if you don't want to fall when you're talking about like a drop back in production. Linebacker, I don't think we got really the best fit. And then at safety, there's probably still guys that would either offer better value or guys that at least had some kind of long-term potential to be a safety. So I'm knocking this particular mock too. I wonder if we'll try to do any more like experimental projects though. It seems like they may be like, all right, it seems like we may be done with the whole, linebacker to safety conversion kind of stuff. But I wonder if they got any other tricks up their sleeve. Like, this is one of the defensive tackle classes, which is also why I don't like the Byron Young pick so much. This is one of those defensive tackle classes where you have guys that have a lot of versatility to kind of go inside out. You could end up having a bunch of Michael Clemens type dudes on your roster, and it'd probably be lethal. Tittman's really good. Yeah. Tittman, even don't take this the wrong way, but even over JMS, Tittman is the guy that I want to see in a Jets uniform the most. JMS, I think, is just a better, safer option in case we don't get a guy like Ben Jones. I still think Tittman should probably try to sit for a year, but I love the upside with a guy like him a lot. Yeah, the safety class is pretty bad. I did have a couple people argue with me that we should really be considering Brian Branch at 13, depending on what happens with like the tackles. And it wouldn't be a terrible decision by any means. I think he comes in and he's an immediate impact guy, but then you're talking most likely at free safety. I don't think we, release Jordan Whitehead or like Chuck Clark to keep Brian Branch, most likely. And Brian Branch is a guy that's going to be better closer to the line of scrimmage, better being able to like line up against some tight ends, like different things like that. So yeah, safety class, not ideal. I think the guys that I've definitely looked at the most, Brian Branch, Brandon Joseph, Christopher Smith, I want to say Jordan Battle was the other guy. And then there's one more who's been creeping up my list, but I don't remember what his name is. He's somewhere on the back burner. I was potentially going to drop a video for him, scouting breakdown stuff, but I haven't finished piecing everything together yet. I wouldn't say he doesn't necessarily fit the position, but, again, it's kind of like, are we going to get the most bang for our buck in year one? I also think he's, again, another that are kind of like tapped out physically. He's just under 200 pounds. He probably could play at a max of like 208 without losing a lot of like the speed and like the agility and stuff like that you like out of a guy like him. So he's more of a smart chess piece than anything else. I think I want to look at one more, and then I'm going to try to get to this video I'm dropping for tomorrow. And then, of course, dealing with the dogs. You want to sleep everywhere else but your crate. I don't miss having puppies whatsoever. All right, so I think we're 0 for 2 in terms of mock drafts that I love, which is a little sad, but Yo, this is what is happening? Okay, there we go. Stop lagging on me so bad. Jets press. They have a 2-round mock draft. I see Kalijah Cansey in the thumbnail, so I have an idea of kind of what's about to happen here. Can Bijan Robinson catch? So from what I recall, Bijan Robinson hasn't necessarily been asked to catch a lot. But let me see something. So that would just be such an unfair backfield, though. Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson coming out of the same backfield is tough. Let me see. So Bijan Robinson has had so he had let's see. So that's 20, 45. So he's had 60 career receptions. So he's actually done a fair amount better than most other running backs coming out after only 3 years. He caught 19 last year for 314 and 2. I have to check him out again. To keep it 100% with you, I haven't looked at him as a receiving option at all. I just want him to come in there and like beast mode people once Breece Hall is done running them 60 yards down the field. But yeah, he's done pretty good. 60 receptions over his career, just under what is that? Just under maybe about 900 yards. All right, let's see. What do we have here? So, yeah, it looks like Kalijah Cansey. Okay, they included an Aaron Rodgers trade. So we get Aaron Rodgers in a conditional 2025 pick in the 3rd round. Interesting. They get our second. They get 207, which I think is our 6th. And they get a conditional 2024. That's not bad at all, actually. To be honest, this might be one of the most realistic Aaron Rodgers trades that I've seen. A 2nd, a 6th, and a conditional 2nd next year, and then we get a conditional 3rd round in 2025. Breece is better. Hey, I can't call it. I don't watch a whole lot of college like whatsoever. So I'd have to check out like all 20. I don't know if college has necessarily all 22s or if that's like the standard term for it. But yeah, I'd have to check out something beyond like the highlights. But it's 2 different running styles. It really does remind me of kind of like a Nick Chubb versus Kareem Hunt kind of situation. So yeah, I don't know. Nobody ever offers up 43, but I don't know. I think it's kind of crying over spoiled milk at that point. You know, it's 1 pick. That seems like one of those things that like a GM would be crying over, where they're just like, "You're gonna give me the later of the 2 back-to-back picks." Like, nah, it's not happening. But this is cool. I don't mind this little mock trade scenario. New York Jets trade down with Seattle. That's crazy. So we drop down 7 picks. We get 52, which is a second rounder, and 123, which I think is a fourth. So we get a second and a fourth to drop down 7 spots. And then this is where, does it say who we're picking here? Maybe it's on the next one. Let's see. Okay. So, yeah, we trade back. We pick Kalijah Cansey, 25th overall. See, this is more realistic. That last mock trade or mock draft where we were getting Kalijah on like the 43rd pick, I don't know what they're thinking, or at least how their mock draft simulator played out, because that's stupid value. Plus, that would probably still mean that you have guys like Mozzie Smith go over him, which I can't see happening. But, I mean, I don't know. Probably depends on the defense. Kalijah Cansey, if we're getting him at the 25th, I'm taking him. I mean, technically, this is the range that you get a guy like Brian Brisset as well. And he's the guy that I think in terms of being able to have a big impact in the run and the pass, he's the better option, but he also has that injury history, and I think he has some concussion concerns as well. But Kalijah Cansey's fun. He's a dope prospect. I've been looking into him more and more often because, I mean, at this point, we're either tabbed to take an offensive lineman guy or we're going to get at somebody on the defensive line, and I think it really just depends if we don't trade up on how the board falls. Ooh, let's go. In a second, we get DeJuan Jones. My man. I really try to avoid doing Madden experiments when I'm like running through mock drafts and looking at them, but DeJuan Jones and Mekhi Becton is just such an unfair advantage. This is also one of the things when I think about like people that have been able to kind of change the game a bit. These are some of those like risks that you take the chance on that like provide a different dimension to your offense or your defense. You know, if we're talking about a defensive player, you have two guys that are going to move people at will. And that's purely what it is. Like worst case scenario, let's say DeJuan Jones ends up being a dud in terms of being like a star tackle. You're most likely still talking about a guy that's going to go out there and maul people in the run game. And then when it comes to pass block, he'll probably still win his fair share. But yeah, that's just such a nasty offensive lineman with those two. Wake up. Yeah, you, because you like to bark and do crazy stuff at 6 a.m. Get your butt up. Yeah, that first mock was no good. This is dope. Okay, you get Kalijah Cansey and you still get DeJuan Jones. This is only a 2-rounder, and they had us get up our second for the Aaron Rodgers trade. I think they still have a next tier. Oh, right. But we did the trade back. We have Luke Weipler again. I'm very confused by this. I'm going to have to check back into him and see. Maybe people have been warming up to him. But I'm almost 100% sure every time I've seen this guy, he's been in like the 4th and 5th round. I don't think anybody's going to be able to sway my opinion on him, though. I just don't think he's a 2nd-round pick. I think even in the 4th and 5th round, he offers starting potential. But yeah, I'm cool on Luke Weipler in a second. But I mean, can't blame people for trying. At least we still get a potential center of the future. And I do love the fact that he's coming out of Ohio State. Like we just pretty much run the board with Ohio State linemen, huh? That's crazy. I would jump on this draft. This would be the first draft that we only get 3 picks in this one. Um, but I would love it. Kalijah Kancey, DeJuan Jones. You pick up Luke Weipler. I don't think it's great value. But yeah, Huawei, to your point, if he develops, it's a really, really good pick for us. I think with him, the development is the key point, right? He could be a plug and play starter. I'm not highly confident in that. So I would say he's a guy that you're depending on signing a guy like Ben Jones so that he's not required to. And even signing Ben Jones, he's a guy I really like, but I think he's a guy where like you don't do this at the center position, but he's a guy where you probably want to try to find ways to get him breaks throughout the game. So, maybe give him 3 to 5 series, let Luke Weipler come in, get a series or two, and then you let Ben Jones finish out the game as a way to give him game experience throughout the season. And then if it turns out that he looks, good enough at some point, he takes over for Ben Jones fully, and then Ben Jones is decent enough to be able to go out there and try to play like guard or something like that if you really want to find his way onto the field. But I got a sneaky feeling that we try to find a way to make like Tristan Colon or Wes Schweitzer like a bigger piece than expected at the center spot. Kind of like a pseudo competition, one of those one of those ones where it's not realistic that the rookie is going to, lose that competition. This might have been one of the best starts. So we traded back twice. Aaron Rodgers. They set the Seattle Seahawks, and then we ended up picking at 25th spot. I might have missed something in like their little preview paragraph, but I'm curious. Let me see, because if not, I need to take a look at the draft order and see who's 25th. Yeah, because this only gets us to the 20th. Okay. Let me see. That didn't help me. Uh, 25th belongs to the Giants. They didn't list a trade for the Giants. I'm curious. So I wonder what else we got from them. The Seahawks gave us a second and a fourth to move up 7 spots. They will be moving up 5. So probably an extra 2 day 3 picks. Some like a couple day 4s. I don't know what the Giants draft pick cash looks like, but not bad. I'm going to drop out of here in 7 minutes, so I won't run through another mock draft unless I find one that maybe is only like 2 or 3 rounds deep. But let me just see what they got. This is Jets Press Full One, Sports Not. I'll probably do another one of these next week. I'm not pressed to do another one necessarily. Actually, I won't do another one of these next week. Next week, I'll probably actually just do the live stream for it. And then ideally, I'll get the kids put down sooner, and maybe I can start it an hour sooner, like 9:30, something like that. Still very late, man. Still very late, but what can you do? kids. But I would still say if we didn't include Aaron Rodgers and we're just going off like the first 2 rounds, based on who ideally would probably still be there, I would probably say if we wanted to get super crazy with it and just do like a wild draft, I would trade back probably to like the same area, the 25th. I would get Bijan Robinson. In the second round, I would probably go a guy like Mozzie Smith with the first of the second round. And then if JMS is going to be there, he's going to be there. So I would probably go like Bijan Robinson at 25. I would go. Who do you want to pay more? It's like, it's not crazy, but I would probably go Mozzie Smith first and then John Michael, just because you're going to get a slightly smaller paycheck that you deal out to him over Mozzie. But if we had a 3rd round pick, I would probably say like Sika Ika. I really like him too, but let me think. Bijan. That's tough. Yeah, I think that'd probably be the way I do it. Bijan Robinson. Ooh, wait a minute. Bijan Robinson. I don't know if I double down like that. Bijan Robinson, Jawan Jones, and then you do like John Michael Smith. That might be the other thing I would consider. Oh, that's nasty. Realistically, though, I don't know. If we're staying at 13, I'm probably saying ideally, I still think Peter Skoronski's off the board before we go. So I'd probably say a guy like Broderick Jones at 13. Let's assume 42 is going to be gone in the Rodgers trade. And then I really think in the second round, unless he's just not there, you're probably really looking at a guy like Mozzie Smith. I'm trying to think who else may fall or who may be a surprise pick there. But it 100% feels like you're going offensive line and then defensive line in the first 2 rounds. I think a trade is the only thing that mixes it up. And then the first 10 picks of the draft are really weird because I keep seeing like Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Richardson, but then I keep seeing like weird like dart throws in there, like Hendon Hooker, I think went to the Seahawks at 5. And I think that was over Jalen Carter, who was dropping and ended up going to like the Lions. But I don't see Hendon Hooker realistically going that high, but still there, you could potentially have somebody crazy drop like Tyree Wilson for real. Potentially. Nolan Smith will be there at 13. Robert Saleh loves his edge guys. He could be somebody that replaces Carl Lawson for us after a year. Kind of similar players when you want to talk about like an undersized dude. But Carl Lawson has way better pass rush moves and like a better pass rushing plan than Nolan Smith does. So with him, I think you're just betting like on a lot of characteristics for sure. Oh, no. Just seen it. So I've been working on trying to get some of these guys that do a lot of NFL draft coverage on the channel, I guess before I drop out of here, I've been trying to get a lot of these guys on the channel that I've been like checking out maybe for like the last 6 months. The first 6 months was really just regurgitating a lot of news. Now I can kind of like, predict certain things, but there's a couple of dudes from Thinking Football, a YouTube channel I watched that had like some film breakdown and stuff like that. Really, really dope. There's a couple other guys I got. One of them just told me they're not going to have time whatsoever. So that's kind of trash. But there's a few other guys. And then there's like an NFL insider and another dude. I don't remember where he's at anymore, but I like Antoine Staley. But yeah, there's a couple names out there that I'm trying to get on. I'm just a little bit slower since I don't do a whole lot of social media joints and all that. But definitely don't want Nolan. Tyree Wilson reminds me of a seasoned Aldon Smith. Okay. I don't think Tyree Wilson has the same kind of frame as like Aldon Smith, but I think play style wise is probably not too far off. Is interesting. I'm curious if we try to switch. This will be like my last parting gift. I'm curious if we try to experiment in a different way on the defensive line, because we wanted to bring in Al Woods, who's like 330 pounds or something like that. One of the heavier, or actually would be the heaviest defensive tackle that we've had on our line. Doesn't fit the one gap penetration scheme whatsoever. I'm curious if we're thinking about running a different kind of 4-3 front and mixing in some bigger bodies or something like that. So I'm kind of keeping an eye in on that too, with maybe some like crazy athletic tackles that are a little bit heavier than we necessarily try to look for. But yeah, this was chill. Huawei, appreciate you dropping by as always. Ronald, appreciate you dropping in. Dakota, I know you're always in. Gino, if you're still here, appreciate you dropping by, my boy. I'm going to link with you tomorrow. Oh, that reminds me as well. We haven't been able to chat about it because my phone has kind of been crap lately. But Jets Flight Squad, so me, Gunny, and Gino, we're trying to figure out when we might be able to run through our version of a mock draft as well, because Gunny always has some interesting insights, and then Gino's pretty tapped in with a lot of like the latest little rumors and news and like craziness. So we'll see if we can get that going. That one would definitely probably be at a better time because we have to do ours usually during like a work period anyway. So we'll see. But appreciate you guys dropping by, my man. I'm working on trying to get these live streams a little bit liver. It'll be dope when we finally look back and we have like 100 plus people in here, maybe more. But I'm going to link with you guys again. Appreciate it. Have a good night.